You can draw this in Procreate. During this easy Procreate tutorial, I will be guiding you through the steps of creating this awesome stained glass illustration. You will learn all about using the quick shape, the symmetry tool, using layer blending modes, and while you learn all that, you will end up with an amazing piece. I'm sure you will feel super proud once you have followed this tutorial, so don't forget to share your work. If you're sharing it on Instagram, then don't forget to tag me in the image, not just in the description, because that way I will be able to find your work and maybe we will see it in the next video, just like these fantastic results from my friends at Patreon. If you haven't heard it already, that's really the place you need to go if you want to follow more Procreate tutorials, because there I have more than 100, ranging from beginner levels to more advanced levels. To get started with this tutorial, what you need is a canvas that is 2500 pixels by 2500 pixels, and the color profile is set to sRGB. I have linked a color palette in the description. And for this tutorial, we will be using the brushes that are already in Procreate. But if you want even more brushes and you haven't heard of the treasure chest yet, then be sure to go to freefromflow.com to get my special brush pack, which is totally free. And you will also get my ebook about color theory. If you're ready, grab your pen and let's get started. The first thing we'll do is draw a couple of circles. To do that, we are going to grab the monoline brush, which you can find under calligraphy. And for our color, we are going to use pure black. So go to the color menu and double tap here at the bottom, and then you will be able to select pure black. And for the opacity of our brush, make sure to set it to 100%. And for the size, you can set it to 30%. Now just draw a circle and hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quick shape. And when you tap one finger on your screen, you will be able to turn it into a perfectly round circle. Then we can go to the Move and Transform tool. That's the little arrow up here. And then make sure you set it to uniform. Then you can change the size a little bit. Let's make it about this size, move it downward a little bit. And we will want to make sure that it's perfectly centered. To do that, you need to go to Snapping here at the bottom and turn on Snapping. Then when you move your circle around, you will see this vertical orange line. Make sure that your circle is on that line and then let go and tap the arrow again. Now let's make another circle on another layer. We'll go to the layer menu, the two little squares, and tap the plus. And then we'll make another circle that is a little bit smaller. So let's just draw a circle like this. Hold your pen in place, then tap one finger on the screen to make it perfectly round. And then go to the Move and Transform tool again. And then make sure that it's perfectly centered. Then go to the layer menu again, and again tap the plus. Then make another circle that is again a little bit smaller. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen, and then go to the Move and Transform tool and place it in the center. And let's go to the layer menu again because we'll make another circle. So let's tap the plus. But this time we will make our brush a little bit smaller. We'll set it to 5% and make a smaller circle. Make a circle like this. Doesn't matter if it's wobbly. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen, and then make it about this size. Then go to the Move and Transform tool. Place it in the center. And it's okay if you make it a little bit bigger by using uniform. Just drag these handles if your circle is a little bit too small, and just make sure that it's centered. And then tap the arrow again. So you should have something that looks like this now. And now that you have this, you can actually merge these layers. So let's pinch them together. And then let's make a new layer on top. We'll tap the plus. And on this layer, we are going to make the vertical lines going downward. And before we start doing that, we are going to turn on the symmetry tool. We'll go to the wrench here at the top, then to canvas. Then we will turn on the drawing guide and go to Edit Drawing Guide. And then here at the bottom, you will find Symmetry. And once you have selected that, you can tap Done here at the top. And now whatever you draw on one side will also show up on the other side. And I will start by making a vertical line. We'll start in the center of our middle ring. Make a line going down. Hold your pen in place and tap one finger on the screen to make sure that it's perfectly vertical. And when you zoom out, you can see that we have that exact same line on the left side as well. Now let's move towards the outside, but first let's make our brush a little bit bigger again. Let's set it to 30% again. And I will do the same thing for these circles. Let's start here. Make a line going downward, hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen. And now you can see that we have a little edge here. You can go to edit at the top and move this just slightly to make sure that you don't get that little bump. And tap the brush and do the same thing for this one. Move downward, hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen. And then finally for this one, a line going down, hold your pen in place and tap one finger on the screen. Then let's zoom out. And now what we need to do is remove a part of our circles. So let's go to our layer with the circles. And to be able to erase both the left side and the right side at the same time, we can turn on Drawing Assist here. We can tap this layer, then tap Drawing Assist. And now symmetry is turned on this layer as well. And then tap the eraser. And for the eraser, we will also use the monoline brush under calligraphy. Then let's zoom in. Let's check the size. I have it set to 75%, but I'll make it a little bit smaller. Let's go for 40 and make sure that the opacity is set to 100%. And then just erase that lower part of those circles so that we create a nice looking arch. So just erase this. Then let's zoom out. Now we just have that part in the center. You could erase it by hand, but you could also grab the selection tool, that S-shaped ribbon here at the top. Then set it to freehand and make sure that color fill is turned off. This shouldn't be blue. Then select that part that you still have left. Close that selection. And then you can either swipe with 3 fingers to erase this or go to the layer, tap it, and then use clear. And now you see that we have these nice looking arches. Now we can move on to the next stage. First, let's merge these 2 layers by pinching them together. Then let's grab the brush and then let's make a diagonal line at the bottom. Let's move from here to about here. And then we are going to fill some areas. First, let's fill the outside. We'll drag the color onto this area to fill the outside, and we will also fill this area. So drag in the color like this. And then let's zoom in and let's add some black parts here. Here we'll make a little break between these parts of the glass, a little bit rounded. Then we'll move downward a little bit, do the same thing here. Make these slight curves, color that in. And let's also do one over here. Let's also do something similar for this little line, this little edge of glass. And let's make our brush a little bit smaller. Let's set it to 5% again. And then let's start here. Make a line in the center. Now let's do one here. Then in this area, could also do 2 right next to each other, breaking up this glass, adding some interesting parts over here as well. And let's break it up here as well. And next we'll start on our scene. We'll start with a sun. Let's do that on a new layer. So let's tap the plus, and then we are going to draw a circle again. But it won't be a really big one. Let's draw it here. Hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen, and make a circle that is about this size. Then make sure that it's centered by going to the Move and Transform tool, moving it around. It's nicely centered now. Perhaps we can make it a little bit smaller, about this size. Then we'll make a new layer on top. So we'll go to the layer menu, tap the plus, and then we'll make a circle that is slightly bigger. Right around it, hold your pen in place, tap one finger on the screen, and then go to the Move and Transform tool to make sure that it's centered. Then we can go to the layer menu and pinch these two together. Now let's add some more elements, some nice flowers to our stained glass piece. Let's tap the plus for a new layer. And this time I want to use another brush. We are going to use the script brush. And we will use this one because you can nicely vary with the thickness of your lines with this brush. I have the opacity set to 100% and the size set to 10. And you can see that if you press harder, your line will become thicker, and as you press lightly, it'll become thinner. Let's start simple. We'll start by adding some patterns to the outer edge of the glass. And to make it easy on ourselves, we are going to use the Symmetry tool again. So tap the layer and turn on Drawing Assist. And then let's start here at the top and make a curved line like this, for example. And you can make a random pattern here, breaking up that glass, make it look interesting with just some curved lines. Maybe some curves like this. They're a bit like leaves. Maybe make a leaf shape like this. Down this side. You really don't have to copy my shapes exactly. Just fill the area with random curved lines. Now we'll add some flowers, but we don't want it to be symmetrical in the center, so we need to turn off Drawing Assist. So go to the layer menu, tap the layer, and turn off Drawing Assist. Then let's start with a flower over here. We'll start with the center, like this. And then we'll make these petals right around. So these are very simple, stylized flowers we're making here. And we're just going to fill the entire area with different types of flowers and leaves. We can make some leafy shapes here. Like this, for instance, moving towards the sides. Perhaps over here. Also add a little berry, for instance. Then on the left side, I want a flower as well. This time we'll make an oval shape. And petals like this. Now, of course, you could also sketch this out first and then follow your sketch on a different layer. Then over here, let's make a shape like this, like a fan shape. And a wavy shape underneath. And some of these lines. This is a very simple flower from the side. Let's make another one right behind it, which is a little bit bigger. Maybe it also has a wavy shape. Or maybe there are some grassy leaves here. You can use your imagination to fill this entire area with flowers and leaves. Try to fill in all the gaps. A little simple flower over here, and for instance, you could make a branch like this with lots of leaves. All the way down. Yeah, something like this. Some pointy leaves. Maybe a leaf here from the side. And you can fill some areas with more leaves. And little berries, little circles. Maybe another very simple flower here, which is just a little oval. Maybe some circles. Pointy, grassy leaves. Little branch with these berry-like things. Just keep it simple, simple shapes. Maybe another simple flower over here. You could also add some lines like this. You could also add a little stem for this one too. And let's balance this piece by adding some bigger branches here as well, so that you get a balanced composition with longer leaves, longer branches on both sides. Make sure that you don't have any gaps. And you can make some touch the side of the window. I think this is a nice balance. Everything is a bit like wrapped around our sun, which is in the center. Let's also add some clouds. Let's start here, for instance, and make a very simple cloud shape. Just like this, and then make a line here, which is perfectly horizontal. So tap your finger on the screen. Make sure that you don't have any gaps. And let's add an extra part here at the bottom. Hold your pen in place again. Make sure you don't have any gaps. And then another cloud over here. Line to the side. Hold your pen in place. I hope you can see it. And then maybe a smaller cloud over here. Add a little line. Hold your pen in place. Make sure you don't have any gaps. And then I think we have enough elements. You might need to go over some areas, check if you really don't have any gaps, because later on we are going to fill all these elements. And if you have gaps, then paint will spill all over. Next, we are going to create our sun rays, and we are going to use the symmetry tool again, but in a bit of a different way. First, let's make a new layer. Let's tap the plus, and then we'll go back to the wrench, then to edit drawing guide here. And over here, we'll go to options, turn on radial here, and rotational symmetry. and also assisted drawing, of course. Then let's tap here and then zoom in a little bit. And then we'll want this blue circle, this blue little dot, to be in the center of our sun. So move it around, place it over here, and then at the top, tap done. Now we are going to create our sun rays. And for these lines, I want to go back to the monoline brush so that we don't get any variety in thickness for these lines. And the size of the brush is still at 5%. Now let's start here and make a line going down. Hold your pen in place and tap your finger on the screen so that this line is perfectly vertical. Then we'll make another one over here. Hold your pen in place until you have a line like this. Next, we'll have to erase parts of these lines. First, let's turn off Drawing Assist on this layer. So tap the layer, turn off Drawing Assist. And then for the biggest part, we can grab the selection tool, the S shape ribbon, and then just select the outer part like this, like a big sausage, close it, and then either swipe with 3 fingers or go to the layer, tap it, and use clear. Then let's grab the eraser to erase the other parts, like over here, that outside. Let's, by the way, also turn off those guidelines. Let's go to the wrench, then to canvas, and turn off the drawing guide, so we don't see those distracting lines. And I'll just go along the outside, erase those parts. You can also erase this part that is going through the cloud. So go along all the areas where this line is crossing, or these lines are crossing, and where you don't want to have them, like in these clouds and wherever they are going through plants, like over here through that leaf and here. Just follow all these lines and tidy it up. We can actually also erase this. That'll make it look more readable. Let's also erase this where it's very close to an element. And this one going through our flower. You can also erase it here. Then we have this one. You can see it's also very close to that flower. There we can erase it. Then over here, going through this flower. And over here. And over here we have one going through these leaves. Let's erase this little part. There. I hope we haven't missed anything. Now it's time to color everything. To do that, first we need to merge all these layers so we can pinch them all together. Then on this layer, we are going to set it to reference. Now we can make a new layer and drop in all the colors there. So let's tap the plus. Let's drag this layer underneath our lines layer. And now let's get started dropping in colors. First, let's grab this one over here, that second color in the first row, and let's drag it onto that outer circle of our sun. Then I would like to add a little gradient to this part, and to do that we are going to turn on alpha lock on this layer. So tap the layer, turn on alpha lock, and then for the brush, go to the airbrushing brushes and use the soft brush. And for the color, we'll grab this one over here, last color in the first row. Now the opacity of this brush is at 60% and the size is at 9%. And now go over that top area, just the top half, and create that soft gradient here. Then let's go back to the layer, tap it, and turn off alpha lock again so we can continue adding colors. This time we'll add this first color in the first row and drag it onto our sun. Now let's move on. Let's grab this color, for instance, fourth color in the first row, and drag it into this area. Then tap continue filling so we can grab multiple colors from our color palette. Like the 5th color in the first row, we can put it here and here. Then for the 6th color in the first row, we can put it here and here. Then move on to the next color, 7th color in the first row. I would like to put that over here. And then the next one, 8th color in the first row, we'll put that here and here. And move on. Let's grab the 9th color in the first row. Let's put that here and here. Let's make sure to also color these areas. And over here, color all these areas. And over here. Then move on to the next color, the 10th color in the first row. Let's put that here in this area and over here. And here we have a tiny little gap. Oh, and here we also have a little area. And then finally, let's grab the 3rd color in the first row and put that here and here. Then I would like to add a new layer on top of this one. Let's tap the plus and set that layer to clipping mask so that whatever we do on this clip layer, it'll only show up on these colors. And then we'll tap the N and change the layer blending mode to multiply so we can add some shadow to this window. Now for our brush, we are going to use the soft brush. And for our color, we'll start with this one, 4th color in the first row. And we'll add that to the top area here, that bluish area. Add a little shadow there. Gently build it up. And then we'll switch and use this color, last color in the first row. And use that on the sides for a little bit of a warmer shadow there. A little bit here on the underside as well. And then we'll switch to this color, 1st color in the 2nd row. And we'll add that to the bottom area. Then once you have done that, you can go to the magic wand and then select Gaussian blur. And then with your pen or your finger, you can slide to the right and blur it a little bit. Let's go for 20%. And then tap the magic wand again. Next, let's color the outer edges. And let's do that on a separate layer. Let's tap the plus for a new layer. And let's start dropping in color. For instance, this purple, we can drag it into this area, then tap continue filling and add it to some more of these areas. Then I would also like to use this color, 2nd color in the 2nd row, and add some pink touches. Perhaps over here as well. I would also like to add it to this area and over here. Then let's switch to this color. That's the 6th color in the 2nd row. Let's add some red touches. Maybe over here. I can also add some on the left side. And these little areas. Then let's switch to this one. That's the 7th color in the 2nd row. Let's add some of that over here. And on this side. Then let's grab some orange, this 8th color in the 2nd row. Let's add that to these areas, but you can definitely create your own variation. Then we'll switch to this color, 3rd color in the 1st row. Let's add that to some areas here. And here. Then for some blues, let's add this one, third color in the second row. Let's add that in this top area. Maybe here. Then we'll move on to the fourth color in the second row. Add that here and over here and here. Then on to the fifth color in the second row. Let's add that here and here and here and here. Maybe some here and over here on this edge and in these areas. And finally, let's also add some yellow, the second color in the first row. And let's add that in these little gaps. And now we have filled the entire outer edge. Now let's move on to the elements in the center. Let's put those on a new layer as well. Let's tap the plus. And now we can have fun coloring these in. You can either follow my lead or use your own imagination and use the colors in the color palette to color all your flowers. Now I would like to start with the clouds. I'll use this color for that, the first color in the first row. Drag it in and then tap continue filling. And I'll put this color in all the clouds. Then let me switch to this color, fifth color in the second row. I'll use it to color some leaves. And spread this color evenly across the window. Then I'll move on to this green, the ninth color in the second row. I want to use that for some leaves as well. And again, spreading it a bit across the window. Then on to this color, 10th color in the second row. I'll use that here. And perhaps here. A little bit over here. Then on to this color, the 7th color in the second row. Let's use that here. And for our flower, maybe this one and some of these berries. Now let's move to the second color in the second row for some petals on the flower again. Maybe this flower. Then let's grab this purple, first color in the second row. I'll use it for these petals, for some leaves here. Then let's grab this color, sixth color in the second row. Let's use it for some grass and some berries. Maybe this flower. Then let's switch to this color, fourth color in the second row. I want to use that for these petals and for some of this grass. Then I'd like to move on to the orange, the 8th color in the second row. I'll use that for these leaves. And for this little flower and some petals here. And let me think, let's use this color, the 3rd color in the first row. Let's use it for this flower and for these centers of these flowers. And maybe, well, for these. That's a bit too much. Let's zoom in so we can put it in there. Then let's switch back to that green, that 9th color in the second row. Let's use that for these leaves over here and for this little stem. And then maybe some pink again, 2nd color in the second row for this little berry and this little flower. And for this part, maybe we can add some more blue, 5th color in the second row. And then let's also use it for the center here. Now we have colored everything, and now we'll add some more color variety. And we are going to do that by adding more layers. Let's start with that outer edge. Let's start here, add a new layer on top by tapping the plus, setting it to clipping mask. So whatever we do, it'll only show up on that edge. And we'll set the layer blending mode to multiply. And this time we are going to grab a different brush. We will go to the water brushes and use the wet glaze brush. And for this brush, I have the opacity set to 100% and the size, let's set that to 35%. Then for the color, let's grab this purple, first color in the second row. And then let's just go over this lower area, darken that up a little bit. And at the same time, we're adding an interesting texture here. And at the top, we can also use some blue, like this fourth color in the second row. And add some bluish texture there. And then we'll add another layer on top. We'll tap the plus again and set this to clipping mask as well. And then this time we'll change the layer blending mode to add, which is great to add light. And to add our light, let's grab a yellowish color. Perhaps this one. It's a bit of a warm yellow-orange color, the 8th color in the first row. And then let's go over the top area very gently, adding some light touches there. And if it gets too much, if it's too powerful, then you can always just go to the layer menu, tap the A, and lower the opacity a little bit. You have full control over this effect. Same goes for the multiply layers. I will set it at 74% in this case. And now let's do the same thing for the layer with the flowers. So first we'll select the layer, then we'll tap the plus for a new layer. Then we'll set this layer to clipping mask, and then we'll start off with a multiply layer. So we'll tap the N and scroll up to multiply. Then first for our first color, let's grab this red, that 6th color in the second row. For some nice warm shadows, just go over with some dabs, adding some of that texture. Something like this should actually be enough. Then we'll move on and add an add layer. So we'll tap the plus, set this layer to clipping mask, then tap the N and scroll down to add. And then let's first grab that light color here again, 8th color in the first row, and go over some areas, not too much, to add some of that light. You can just dab a little bit, and we can also use some blue. Let's grab this one. It's a bit of a greenish blue, 6th color in the first row. And let's also use that for some of these areas. A bit for the clouds, just some dabs. And again, if it's too much, you can just go to the layer menu, tap the A, lower the opacity a little bit to, let's say, 60%. Now finally, let's also do this with this wet glaze brush on our first layer here. Let's make a layer on top of this multiply layer. Let's tap the plus, set this to clipping mask, then tap the N and set it to multiply. And then let's grab the red again, 6th color in the second row, and let's darken this lower area of our glass and go around our sun here. And we can also use some of the purple, 1st color in the second row. They'll get even darker here. So something like this. Now let's also create an add layer here. So let's tap the plus, set this layer to clipping mask, tap the N, and set it to add. First, let's grab a light color like this one, 3rd color in the first row. And let's add a little bit more light to the center area and some nice texture at the same time. You can also use some blue at the top. Let's grab this one, 5th color in the second row, and add some of that bluish light at the top. And again, if it's too much, just tap the A and scroll to the left to, let's say, 65%. Then finally, I want to create a layer on top of all these colored layers. So select the top one underneath your lines layer, and then tap the plus, and let's set this layer to multiply as well. So tap the N, scroll up to multiply, and then let's grab this blue, third color in the second row, and I want to darken this lower area so that it kind of blends with that darkness on the outside. So it nicely fades. You can vary the color. You can also use that purple, for instance, first color in the second row. Go along the edges until it nicely fades like this. And that's it. You have created a stained glass window. If you have enjoyed this class, then I think this one is the perfect next project for you. You will learn even more about Procreate while creating this landscape. I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.